Welcome to Seed to Success, the podcast where we deep dive into the strategies, stories, and smart decisions that help VAs and OBMs grow and thrive. I'm your host, Adrienne Donnelly, and whether you're just starting out or looking for ways to take your business to the next level, you are in the right place. Thanks for tuning in. Now let's get into today's conversation. Welcome back to another episode of Seed to Success. I am very honoured to be joined by Yvette Simpson from the Y Principle today. Welcome, Yvette.
Thanks, Adrienne. Very excited.
It
Very
is
excited to be with Seed.
It's exciting. Yep. I'm trying to remember how long we've known each other. We both travelled to Melbourne, maybe 2002? 2022, sorry, I'm wishing my life away, for the Australian Admin Awards. And I think I put out a little call out on social media to say, if there's any other VAs or OBMs that want to go for coffee in Melbourne, I'll be here on this day. And I think that was the first time we ever met.
It was actually before that.
Was it?
Yeah. It was at the Newcastle Virtual Assistants Conference.
It was too. I was trying to remember which came
about
first.
3 months after.
Yeah.
Melbourne was a couple of months after.
That's right. Yep. And then we got to spend that night at the awards. We've been to other awards. We've had many a breakfast in Newcastle together. Yep. Many a beautiful breakfast. And it's really great to have you on the pod today because I think your space that you've carved out for yourself in terms of that virtual EA space is, I guess, up for discussion at this time with the whole AI of it all, which we're going to get into. But I want to start with some insight from you. You've been doing this work now for 30 years, both through employment and your own business. In your opinion, what do you think makes a great executive assistant or EA?
Well, first of all, let's start with the title because there's so many titles out there. And I think, virtual assistant, personal assistant, online business manager, executive assistant, we're all in the same job, really. We're all in administration. So I think that when you say what makes a great virtual executive assistant, it's more like what makes you really good at what you do as opposed to the title. So I've kind of like to start there because I think we're all business support specialists in our own way.
Yeah.
And then what makes it great, whether it's executive assistant, virtual assistant, what makes you really good at your job is being able to see the bigger picture, but also sometimes seeing the finer details. So that means if you can anticipate problems, understand what's important to your executive, understand what's important to the business, then that makes you that good addition to the team. The best assistants in any level, they don't just complete tasks, they reduce mental load. And decision fatigue is a real thing, especially with people who work in management levels. So if you can take some of those decisions away or make them less, I think that is the best way. And that's what I would say makes a great assistant in any form.
Yeah, absolutely. I think many people see the role as an EA or a VA, a business support specialist, as you mentioned, as someone who's very task-orientated, who manages inboxes, manages diary. How have you seen that role evolve over the years, whether it was when you were working in corporate EA roles or now having had your business for a few years?
The traditional diary management inbox and stuff, that's still there. It's just a smaller part of the role. And it's because we can add automations or technology has kind of caught up with us. It's still there, but instead of reading everyone, you can flag things. You can do all different kinds of cool things within the inboxes and diary. I did a post recently on diary management in that, a lot of people say, can you do diary management? Well, yes, I can. I can play Tetris like the most of us. But I think it's about creating space and energy. So it's about, if you're doing diary management, for example, you're asking when is the best time? When do you have your energy? When is it at the best? Clear those parts. When is your thinking time? When is your brain not functioning and I'm tired? Allocate tasks accordingly that way. So I think the traditional roles have become more strategic that way. And most execs, they don't need someone who's just doing the tasks all the time.
Yes.
They actually need someone who can see the whole picture. So I think that's where it changes. We used to be quite reactive and quite transactional. These days, we need to think outside the box or look at things around us as well.
Yeah, and bringing that perspective around, okay, here are the things I need to do today, but what are the bigger ramifications of what I do with these tasks or this to-do list, or how that impacts the execs or business owners that I'm supporting in a virtual or a fractional capacity in how you work now, where you and I have similar backgrounds, where we've come from corporate EA and PA roles, where most of the time you're sitting right outside the door to the exec and you have that in-person relationship. How do you forge those relationships with the business owners you support, where you may not have, and I know you do have with some of your clients, a in-person regular interaction with them, but how do you forge that trust and that rapport and just that innate understanding of the human being you're supporting when you are doing that virtually?
Look, I mean, I think it's the same as when you're sitting next to a person, really. Communication, communication, communication.
Say it again.
It's being responsive, I think, is probably the word to use. So, if someone asks you to do something, it's reacting to that almost straight away or as soon as you can. And it doesn't have to be over the top communication or constantly, being in people's faces, so to speak, or virtually pinging them. But if someone asks you a task, send them a thumbs up emoji, send them a tick, add it to a task list that might be shared. So it's more about responsiveness and being acknowledged. Because the worst thing I think that can happen is, especially when you're virtual, is silence. It produces uncertainty. If someone asks you to do something, and you even know this in your own family or in your own life as well, if you ask someone to do something and there's no response, you wonder whether they've got the message. You wonder if they understood the message. You wonder if they're working on it at all. So just the simple, quick responses, a thumbs up, a tick, add it to a list, something that they can see. That's all you need to do, and then you can communicate with them later. But I think that's really important when you're virtual. And yes, I do like to go and see my clients when I can. I call them, and I'm quite renowned for this, I have legs meetings, because sometimes it's good and it does build trust. So if it is a possibility, I do understand, if there's plane distances between people or things like that, then that's not a possibility. But if you can, at least once, I would encourage that in-person touch just to build trust. It's amazing what it can do. And I think that we don't have enough connection points these days. So a lot of the times it just helps. So,
yeah. Absolutely. You obviously manage multiple clients, multiple business owners, and I've had this question from other VAs and OBMs that are looking to utilize that EA or PA background that they have. And one of the questions that they often ask is, it's that point about responsiveness, but also trying to remind your clients that you actually do work for a variety of different business owners. And whilst you are their PA or EA, you are also the PA or EA to other people. And at the end of the day, they're not paying us to be there 40 hours, 38 hours, 30 hours a week. They might be paying us 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week. So how do you then manage multiple clients, making them all feel like they've been responded to, but also reminding them you're not there full time for them?
That's a really cool question. I think it points to what we just talked about in the responsiveness. You could absolutely be working for client A and client B sends a request through, and that's where the thumbs up or the tick emojis work really well, in that you can go, yep, I've got that. In that they're like, okay, I was heard.
Yeah.
And it's about developing that assurance and trust there, that they go, okay, she's seen that. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to get to it straight away, but you've acknowledged it. So at least that kind of puts that trust to bed. And then I think it's the communication that you have with your clients, in that they understand. I use the term fractional a lot, and it can mean different things. It's a bit of a buzzword, but if you literally look at the dictionary meaning, you get us for a fraction of the time. And that's where I think the word fractional works really well in this space. If you use that, it's a simple term that people understand. Okay, I get them for a fraction of the time. I've definitely worked for clients who want that responsiveness all the time. And it's about bringing them back and saying, I've noticed that you're kind of wanting someone to respond all the time, or that you're wanting someone to always be there for you. I'm responding as much as I can on the tasks that I'm seeing coming through, but just kind of putting it back on them and questioning, do you think you need someone full time? And sometimes, or most times, they'll come back and go, oh no, I don't need someone full time. Okay, let's talk about the fractional thing and just take them back on that journey again. The other thing that I find really helps is just letting them know when you are available. Just put it at the top of their diaries. It's a simple thing. Yvette's online today from these hours.
Yeah.
So, and it might not necessarily be Yvette's online from 8 to 5:30. That means I'm at your disposal for those times. It means I'm open, I'm contactable, I can help you with those kinds of things. Because I think, and some VAs are different. Some of them work strict days.
Yep.
I work Wednesdays, 10 till 3, and others don't. So it's just about being clear and having that reminder visible for the client, and to let them know that this is when I can help you. Absolutely. This is when I'm going to send you a thumbs up, and I'll get to that shortly.
I think that also comes back to something that you and I have both heard Michelle Broadbent speak about, is those setting those expectations from the start and having those sorts of things around your working hours. If you are working to a set weekly schedule, is having those in your service agreement, having those in your onboarding documents. One, because it always gives you that safety net to fall back on if you're finding the client's just pushing those boundaries a little bit around how much they're wanting from you, and they might be messaging you late at night because they're sitting in an airport lounge doing a bit of admin type things. But also then I'm the same as you. Whenever I have a day where I'm not going to be available, first thing I do is email my clients and then go straight to their diary and just put it in the top of their diary as free time, but just a reminder, Adrienne's offline today, because then it's like, well, we all knew, we all agreed that that was the deal. Another thing I love that what you said, and it's a conversation that you sort of alluded to at the top of the conversation, is what we call ourselves. But your choice to use that word fractional, I think that's so smart, because on an episode of the podcast where I was talking with Kathleen the other day, we were talking about, you can call yourself anything you want, but if your ideal client doesn't resonate with that language, or it's not what they're typing into LinkedIn, to Google, to Instagram, to Facebook, or talking to their friends about, I need this, they're never going to find you. So the fact that you've pitched yourself as a fractional EA, because often C-suite level and execs are familiar with that term, fractional. They may have a fractional CFO. They may have put themselves in fractional CEO roles before. So the fact that you have thought, okay, well, what language is my ideal audience using? And then let me pitch myself. I think that is a really great lesson for anyone listening who sometimes feels that the VA term doesn't really resonate with them. And we often see people come up with all these fancy names for whatever they'd like to call themselves, but bringing it back to, well, is that the language that your client is using? Is that what they're going to be typing in to Google or to a website, or saying to their friends, I need,
understand.
Correct, which is so smart from your perspective around using a terminology that your ideal clients are already familiar with. Because there would be some business owners, you think about maybe a speech pathologist or a woman that runs a pottery studio who's looking for some admin support. The word fractional probably wouldn't resonate with them, but it does. Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit more about who the types of clients or business owners that you work with and how those people are finding you in your space, in that virtual or fractional EA space?
That's a really good question. And I think it's evolving at the moment. So when I first started the Y Principle, a lot of it was word of mouth. It's the best place to start, and start with the people that you've worked with before, the people that trust you, the people that know the value of the work that you do. Because the thing is, once you've built that trust within that circle, and those people, they like working with you for a reason. And so they will always try and find opportunities to work with you again. because they remember the way that you made them feel. That's really important. And that touches on a bit of emotional intelligence, and that kind of stuff is remembering how you felt or how someone felt when they were supported. So I think it's building that reputation, and word of mouth and referrals work really well when you're starting a business. I think it's evolved a little bit. So I still sit in that space. My network has grown and is a little bit bigger, but also to go back to that term, that word I just used, network. So take yourself and put yourself into networking events and environments where you think your clients might be, where they might hang out, where they might network themselves. If you're a VA that works with tradies, for example, are there trade shows, or literally put yourself where they go to hang out, because that's where they're actually going to be the most receptible. And it's accepting of something new and something different, or a different way of thinking. So that's kind of how I am. I'm a bit of a serial networker.
You're very good at it. I have witnessed it both online and offline, and you are very good at it.
Yeah. But it takes, it takes practice and energy, and it's exhausting. But I'm an outgoing person, and I understand that not everybody is. And so it's about, when you go and you network, it can be uncomfortable. There are some different techniques that you can lean on. Don't be the person with your back against the wall. Don't stand by the door. Just open smiles and make eye contact with one person. That's all you got to do. It's the same as when you're a kid and you get on the school bus, right? Make eye contact with one person, sit next to them.
Yeah.
And so that's what networking is for me. And I think that's how I've managed to build such a good network. But you can network with your potential clients, but I think it also helps to network with like-minded people like yourself.
Yes.
Like you and I, Adrienne, like other VAs. So you almost need to have two networks and have them run at the same time. In that those networks, one will help you build your business with your client base, but the other network will become your community. And that will help you with, I don't know, specific tasks that you might be working on, that you might have a skill set that someone else doesn't. So there are advantages of opening yourself up as well.
I love that you've raised this point around these almost two streams of networks. And one of the questions we obviously get asked by people entering our industry is, where do I find clients? And you're right. For most of us who have used our previous employment and those skills and almost the position description from there have now become our service offerings, the best first place to start is with people you've worked for before, because those people have already seen you delivering those services, but just as an employee as opposed to a business owner. But you're so right about that second stream of your network. They may not be your ideal client, but they may be in rooms where you can't be for whatever reason. And you and I have got probably 50 examples of this just between the two of us, where you've been somewhere and someone's spoken to you and you said, oh, you need to talk. It happened this week. You need to talk to Adrienne, and vice versa. I've been in many rooms where someone's saying, we're looking for this. And I was like, you need to talk to Yvette, but you weren't there. You didn't even know potentially about that event, or vice versa, that, we haven't known the same people. So also that second stream can become like your biggest champions of your business in the rooms, whether they're virtual rooms or in-person rooms where you're not. That's some advice I give often to VAs and OBMs, is like, think about who your ideal client is, but think about the other people who are also servicing that person. So the trade example. So think about bookkeepers or accountants that specialize in tradespeople, because you can bet those tradies are asking their accountant, oh, could you do a bit of like our admin? And the bookkeeper might be saying no, but I know someone who really specializes in that place. You touched on emotional intelligence. That is a real core principle of the Y principle. For someone who is listening who isn't overly familiar with the term emotional intelligence, or EQ as it's often referred, how would you describe that, and why has that become, I guess, two-part question, why has that become such a core part of how you run the Y principle, your business?
Well, it is a core part, emotional intelligence, because I think it's the strength that we all need these days in this world of AI and technical skills and things like this. It's the soft skills that are actually really important. And I think it'll be what helps you stand out against other people when someone is looking for help. So, and like emotional intelligence to me is literally reading the room or the virtual room, reading between the lines, I think is what I'm probably trying to say. So an example might be you're looking at someone's diary for the day and you can see that they've got an important presentation or a difficult conversation that they have to have with someone. And that emotional intelligence should actually say, okay, I'm going to check in with that person after that. Because I think asking them, how did it go, matters just as much as the task that they've given you.
Yes.
Because you're actually giving them the space to reflect. It opens and builds that trust and, that relationship that way. And it gives them, also opens them up to, while I'm talking about how that conversation went, it might give them other ideas on how you can best support them. So emotional intelligence to me is a non-negotiable. It's about listening, even when people aren't saying something. Earlier, I mentioned silence creates uncertainty, but if you're asking someone a question and they're giving you silence back, sometimes that's also an untold sign of, I'm stressed, I've got too many decisions to make, I don't know how to answer you right now. So it's understanding those little social cues and watching for them that's really important. And I think it takes you back to that, remember how someone makes you feel. And you remember the smaller details. That's just really important. The other thing I will say is that everybody's different.
Yeah.
So when it comes to emotional intelligence, a salesperson is completely different to a finance manager. So being emotionally intelligent in your communication with how you would deal with a salesperson as opposed to a finance manager will always help. So that might mean salespeople always like to be liked. They have to be liked. It's important to them. So to get them to work with you, you might say use emotional terms. So, I was really disappointed that you couldn't get that receipt to me on time. It's probably not a good example, but they'll think, oh, Yvette doesn't like me now. And it's not about playing on their emotions. It's about talking their language.
Yes.
Because they heard me when I said that. Where a finance manager, they don't want the fluff. They're in the numbers, they're in the detail.
Yeah.
So if you need something from them, you give them the detail that they're used to. You talk to them in the language that they're used to. So that's emotional intelligence. And that is something, to the point of AI, you can't replace that.
Nope.
AI cannot do that. They cannot talk in different tones. They cannot recognize the silence between conversations. They can't recognize the context of the room,
the body
or what's happened.
language. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where emotional intelligence is really important. And it's why it's my non-negotiable. And it's actually the top value for the Y principle. So,
and I think bringing that emotional intelligence from the start and coming into these relationships with the business owners, especially if you're working in this sort of fractional or virtual EA or PA space, coming into it, thinking about it like a partnership as opposed to I'm here to do a task, another task, and then my job will be done for the day. I can send my invoice, that sort of thing. I mean, you and I have worked for executives where you could probably still, I know one of the execs I worked for, well, before I started the business, or over 10 years ago, I'm like, I could still tell you his Subway order. I could still tell you if he was on a call how he would signal which of his 2 preferred Subway orders he would need. But it's because we had built up that rapport and that we just knew, the day he was having, I could tell what he would be needing next. And that's where that emotional intelligence comes in, and coming into that relationship like, we're going to be a partnership. I'm going to be your wing person. I'm going to have your back. When you have those crappy meetings, you're going to know that you can call me and vent about it in the car on the way home or to the next place. And that's a safe space. And emotional intelligence, I think, helps create that rapport and allows you to come at these client opportunities or the client relationships less with that task focus and more of a partnership focus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
And you've obviously grown the Y principle. And I'm just acknowledging now I'm going all over the place with the questions that we had developed for today. So I appreciate you staying with me because I'm like, I could talk to you about this stuff all the time. You have, over the years I've known you, you have been just the business on your own. You've grown it. You've explored business partnerships. You've brought the team right back to you. You've grown these beautiful collective of other VAs and OBMs and EAs and PAs. How does that emotional intelligence value then come into play when you're engaging people to work in your business, not just your clients, but actually your team?
I think, it's when I first meet people, you can see when they've got the natural curiosity and the calmness and the kindness that comes through. And that's where I kind of gel with people when it comes to building the team for the Y principle. It's not always about technical skills. It's about if they can listen well, I guess, and they're personable. I think that is, especially when you do start off virtually, I think that they're key things that you actually need to make sure that gels with the culture of what you're trying to build as well. So, it's not always about technical skills. I think for me, it's about identifying how this person fits, how they relate to different things, what they're like in a general day-to-day conversation, and their mannerisms will tell you a lot more about them, I think.
That growing and shrinking, for want of a better word, then expanding your business again. What has that taught you about business and I guess the pros and cons of it just being yourself versus having a team of other professionals that are servicing your clients?
So with me, I literally, when I'm talking about kids growing up, they go out, and they go up, and they go out. I think businesses can do the same thing, and that you expand out, and then you go up, or it's just me and you expand out. You try different things. I obviously, like most business owners, when I first started out, was so excited and it took on everything.
Yeah.
You say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And it's all exciting and everything else. And so the first time I took on everything and then found myself exhausted, thought I need some help. And so started to get some help in. But the way that I did it was almost quite naive. And I'm happy to share this for people to take this learning and don't do what I did. So don't take on too much to the point that you're drowning. When I did get some help in the first time, what we were doing was, I'll just put it, out there. The Y principle is all 100% Australian based. I would get other VAs within the country to help me with the workload, but they were kind of the shadow.
They were behind the scenes, like not client facing?
Not client facing. So, but that doesn't help necessarily because what happens is I was still the face in the meetings, the person who answered the phone calls, the person who turned up to the events, and I couldn't always answer or switch, and it was exhausting. So whilst I did have the help,
almost middlewoman.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Whilst I still had the help, I was kind of the brand shoved forward all the time. And so it was a different type of exhaustion. So it's not something that I would recommend either, because it was just something that I organically learned. Didn't work. It was just a different type of exhaustion. So from there, I scaled back down to myself and looked after my health, because that's one thing that I let slide.
Yeah. And you've done an incredible job of that over the last 2 years. I've watched how much time and energy and importance you've placed on your health.
Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah.
As a family member, a parent, a child of aging parents, whatever stage you are in your life, you can't help others unless you help yourself first. And in our line of work, we're always helping other people first. It's why we're so good at our jobs. But to the detriment of yourself, then you're no good to anyone. So you can't actually do the job that you love to do if you're not healthy. So I took some time to literally scale the business back and work on my health. Yes, It cost me a bit financially. Do I regret it? No, because I've got so much more energy now and I feel better. Like simple things, I can walk. I'd had foot injuries, all kinds of things. So it's important to look after yourself. And then if we go back to building the business back up, I tried it in a different way, using a different communication style with people. So it was not more about me being the face of the business and I. It was changing the word to we. Simple. But when you have a discovery call with a client and they're asking you and telling you exactly about the things that they need, it would be me responding instead of saying, I can help you with that. I can help you with that. It would be, we can help you with that. Or I'm sure I've got someone on my team with that skill set that matches you, and bringing them along on the journey as well. So sometimes not even having that discovery call, just you and the potential client, having that other visual person there, because what can happen is if you have that one-on-one with the client first, then they're building that rapport with just you.
Yeah, they've fallen in love with you and they just want you then to service them as the client. Yeah.
And that's the language, exactly right there. You just said it, Adrienne, is I just wanted you.
Yeah. I've seen that happen for you. I've seen people say to me, but I just wanted to work directly with Yvette. And it's like, she needs to sleep.
Yes. Yeah. But it's also, they can still have a piece of you. Yeah. That's fine, because that's the business. Yeah. So what I say is everyone is backed by me or backed by the Y principle. So I use the term collective in the, we work together. Yeah. So if I put a particular person with a client, it doesn't mean that they're just getting just that person. They're getting that person plus the collective, because it means that they can lean on them and they can ask questions and they can tap into other skill sets as well that are within the Y principle. So it's a benefit, and it's about explaining that to the client in those terms and saying, well, yes, no, you're not going to get just me. Thank you. It's a lovely compliment, but you're going to get this person plus me plus a team. And that we're always, the Y principle is about building a brand and a way of working that includes those things, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Yeah. And how does that team structure now, knowing that you have a beautiful household of daughters that are all starting to grow up and move out and all of those things, how does that team structure help you where you're now at the point where you can go on 6 weeks holidays, you and your partner or you and your cousin or you and your friend can go on these great trips? How does that team play out as opposed to when you used to try to do the client work, one, with a younger family, or trying to holiday as well, like take extended periods of time and enjoy now, not being an empty nester, but getting there?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. One has flown the coop, but the other two are still here. Yeah. But yeah, I think building that team behind me, especially, I have one person on the team. I call her my OG girl. Yeah. She's been with me pretty much from the first time I asked for help, but it's having those people on your team that know you really well. And so I guess the way I look at it is, and I'm looking at my calendar on a screen just here, is that I give my team access to my calendar the same way that you would expect, like when your client or your executive that you're working for, to have that transparency. And with that comes support. So just before we got on this call, I got a message from one of my team members who went, "Hey, I just saw what's in your diary today. Good luck, have fun."
That's so nice. Right? Exactly what you were saying before about messaging the client to be like, hey, how did that tricky chat go this afternoon? It's the exact same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And I found that in a team member who's just shown me that emotional intelligence and that support. And it's not that you need to open yourself up, but you do know that when you're supporting clients, you see things that are private or whatever in the calendar. If you want to lock it down and not have them see it, great. But having that openness with the team has helped me They can see when I'm at networking events. They can see when I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
They can see when I'm going on a 6-week holiday. They can plan things accordingly and offer their support. So, my OG team member knows so much about the business that I can fully trust that even though she has limited capacity, that she can skim across the top. She can see what's coming in. She will know where I am if I need to be contactable. But to that point, I won't be contactable. I've already told them that. In it, I want to hear from my team how they're going. That's great. Check in. But I won't be hearing from my clients. So if we take it back to the health side of things, it's really important that you do take time to switch off. So I guess, it's everything that we've talked about today, in that the emotional intelligence is really important to me for clients, but also for my team. They've shown that with just little things, by me opening up and giving them the trust as well. I trust them. They trust me. Everyone works well when there's trust.
Yeah, and it runs really smoothly. Yvette, before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit more about the AI conversation, because I know it's something that you're really passionate about. And I think, like many industries are experiencing a lot of, well, in my opinion, and people may disagree, a lot of fear mongering online around AIs coming for this industry, this industry, this industry. I have seen you as someone who has really embraced AI and has, I guess from the outside, not seen it as a potential threat at all, but almost like, oh, this is this incredible new tool. And I wonder if you could share some of those wins that you've had in terms of the service that you deliver and the use of AI, and if there has been any times where you've thought, oh, I wonder what this does mean from our industry in a way that could be potentially threatening. Have you had those thoughts at all?
I don't see it. I see AI as something that's really cool and exciting for us. And the reason why I say that is because it's a good tool, but let's take it back to the emotional intelligence. It doesn't have that emotional intelligence. But what it does have is, I use ChatGPT and Claude every day. Every day. And I'm learning different ways to use it every day. But it's a strategic, smart thinking partner. That's all it is. I tend to almost, I'll do the work, I'll do the thinking first around an idea. And then when I put it into ChatGPT or Claude, in my visual is almost putting it through the wash. So I'll put it through,
like a little sense check
through the wash, do a sense check. Sometimes it'll come back and I'll be like, no, it's not even
have
right.
another coffee and try again.
I like what I did. I'm actually better than you. So that's okay. That's good to have that argument and to build your confidence. But, or it'll come back with something that you haven't thought of. And you're like, okay, I'm going to build this out again. And I might put it through another wash, another sense check. So AI has great value that way. And it's a great tool to do things, and simple things as well, if you've got the right connectors in place. When you're a virtual assistant, you have multiple clients, and I'll give you an example. You remember something, you've seen something somewhere, and this is a very simple example, but an accountant for a client had said to me, Yvette, in future, can you please send all bills that need to be paid to this address? I replied with my responsiveness, thumbs up, yep, sure. And that was at the start of the month when bills weren't coming in. And so basically, I get to the point where, okay, bills are coming in at the end of month, and it's end of June as well. This is very important. Where did she tell me that instruction? Was it in Slack? Was it in an email? Was it in a meeting? Like, I know she told me. I don't know.
But I've got 7 inboxes or 7 places of information.
Exactly. And it was a really generic, because it was tied into a process that she had. So it wasn't just a bills at company email address. It had a couple of different weird anomalies in it. So with the right plugins and the right AI help, I actually asked Claude, I had a conversation with this said accountant, and they said this, they requested this. Please tell me where it was that they
little
had
game of Marco Polo
told
with
me.
Claude. Yeah.
Exactly, right? But that would have taken me probably 15, 20 minutes to go, okay, it's not in this Slack message. It's not in this inbox. Where is it? But I know she told me.
Yeah.
And I want to do the right thing and remember that task.
Yeah.
So it was about just asking Claude to find it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Here it is. Off you go. You've done your job.
Yeah.
So using AI as your assistant to help you do something better and remember things or create things is great. There's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, AI is only going to remember what you tell it though as well. So it's never going to have that context outside of those. Where was that conversation? I had to ask it where that conversation was instead of trying to spend all of that time. So I think that's where it's really important. And I think what I tell potential clients or anyone who asks the question about AI is, I think the investment or the conversation that we should be having is, let's have AI plus human.
Yeah.
So not just AI on its own, not just, I don't need a virtual assistant because I've got AI. It would be, okay, that's great, but how much time are you spending with that AI to train it?
Yeah.
To tell it what to do, to sense check.
Yeah.
So all those things that we just discussed, what's the value of your time versus a VA's time?
Yes.
To do that.
Yeah.
So let's get an AI plus a VA to help.
Yes.
Because then that way, that is actually more cost effective
Yeah.
for you. It's more productive as well. And you've almost got 2 team members there.
Yeah.
So it's about using it sensibly.
And I don't know about you, but the conversations I'm having with clients where outside of the seed business in my own VA and OBM business is the conversations we're having is, what AI could we be using to free up Adrienne's time to then provide a more strategic service to my client? And sometimes that's getting more involved in customer or member communication if they have a membership-based model, attending meetings on their behalf because I know that I could do that for them, and letting AI do something else that I don't need to be doing. So it's actually almost the increased use of AI in what I'm seeing in my client-facing work is it's actually allowing me to provide a more valuable service to my client, but also a little bit more meaty work, which is actually way more fulfilling for me, and the client's getting a more strategic, higher level service from me, as well as all parts of every single person's role, which is, you know, the stuff that just needs to be done. But it's actually shifting it in a more positive way to allow, I think, people in our industry to offer a more valuable, a more personalized, a more human approach for our clients to their clients.
Yes, I think so too. Definitely. And I think AI has become very obvious very quickly in a lot of spaces. Social media, for example, people can spot things a mile off. You just need to be careful, and the value of a human experience is really important, and people want that authenticity as well.
Yeah.
So it's just continue the conversations. Don't be scared of AI. Embrace it. Don't think it's going to replace you. Think it's going to change your work and help you evolve. Yes. We were all scared of social media when it first came out.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's scared of change.
Yeah.
This is just something else. Like if you're old enough, everyone thought that computers were going to explode in the year 2000 with Y2K. And at this point, Y2K came and went. Everyone blinked. Everyone survived. I think AI will be the same thing. Like it will come. It will probably get really popular. And I think it's almost at a saturation point where people are rolling their eyes going, oh, that's not real. That's a bot. Someone else wrote that. And we will come back down off that slide, I think. So it's about being consistent with the human side. We're still here. We're still tangible, emotional people. And then that's a good thing.
I think it's a great thing. As always, I so value our conversations, your insights, your perspectives, your way of thinking. So thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Adrienne. We could chat all day long.
I know,
Thank
we
you so
could. We need
much.
to get in the car. I think last time you were driving to Goulburn or something like that. It's like,
Yes,
oh, we've got
I
plenty
was.
of time to chat while we're driving. Yvette, if people are keen to connect with you, to chat more about you, to learn more about, where's the best place for them? Where are you hanging out online?
Pretty much the socials. LinkedIn is probably the biggest one for me
Yeah.
because that's where my audience
Yep.
is and where my potential clients play. But I'm contactable there. I've got the website, thewireprinciple.com. Yeah, I'm easily found.
Yep.
So, even if, we'll take it back to ask AI where to find me.
She's in Sydney. She's in Sydney, but frequents Newcastle a lot.
Exactly, but always open for a conversation and collaboration with people.
Yes.
I love meeting new people. I love learning from this profession, this industry. I think we've got a lot to share, and I think that that's really important.
I agree.
And I think it sets us apart from other professions in that we're open. So lean on your community, have a conversation. I'd love to hear from you.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Yvette, and have the most beautiful holiday.
Thank you. Thanks, Adrienne.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Seed to Success. Make sure you are subscribing so you never miss an episode. If you know a VA or OBM who might benefit from this conversation, feel free to share it with them. Let's chat again soon.